have an article up on Infowars.com. Quote, they're hopping mad in the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. That is a Syrian legislator. And he's talking about Russian strikes in Syria. The U.S. media, the Western governments, are pushing back against this. And many people are asking, well, why didn't they do this years ago when we had the pictures of the convoy of jeeps and light weapons stringing for miles? One A-10 Warthog could have taken those guys out and they didn't do anything. But we have Obama saying that the Russian airstrikes are strengthening ISIS. Is that true? If it really makes them stronger, then why would Obama bomb a hospital in Afghanistan because it's got a couple of Taliban fighters in it? Unapologetically saying, well, they shouldn't have had Taliban fighters there. And again, they knew it was a hospital. They continued the attack for over 30 minutes. We had 19 people killed, 3 of them children. People were burning to death in their beds that could not get out of there. But, of course, we're allied with Saudi Arabia. They're trying to make a case for Assad being the most evil man on the planet. That's always the case whenever we go when we go to war. You always have to make the bad guy a strongman Noriega, or you have Saddam Hussein who is taking babies off of ventilators. All these things lies, of course. People who were previous partners of our CIA, then they become the villains when the time is right to get rid of these people. But what's going on right now in Syria? This article that we have on Infowars.com is from Zero Hedge. It says 2 days, and this is 2 days ago. We're now 2 days into Russia's air campaign. Both Moscow and the West are rushing to spin the narrative. Very true. He says the U.S. is portraying Russian airstrikes as supportive of a murderous regime, and an imminent threat to civilians is key. Now, this is the same government says this is a threat to civilians. The Russians are possibly going to kill civilians. This is the same administration that just bombed a hospital for 30 minutes in Afghanistan. That's how concerned they are about civilian casualties. They go on and say in the article, the notion that the U.S. has now finally managed to identify the quote-unquote good guys in Syria after failing to get it right for 4 years, and that now evil Russia is deliberately targeting those good guys simply because they're the good guys is laughable to the point one wonders if CNN and others pushed back on being compelled to spin it that way. It's such a ridiculous narrative. And this, of course, is what the lawmaker says. He says they're hopping mad in Saudi Arabia, the U.S., and Qatar because of their defeat and because of the victory of Russia and Syria and the unraveling of the fact that the U.S. and its allies are not serious about fighting ISIS. That's the takeaway, folks. We're not serious about fighting them. We created them. We could have taken them out at any point. And that's the point that Putin is making when he talks about this. But here's what Obama had to say when he went to the UN. Let's play that clip.
ISIL has now lost nearly a third of the populated areas in Iraq that it had controlled. 18 countries are now helping to train and support Iraqi forces, including Sunni volunteers, who want to push ISIL out of their communities. ISIL has been pushed back from large sections of northeastern Syria, including the key city of Tal Abyad, putting new pressure on its stronghold of Raqqa. And ISIL has been cut off from almost the entire region bordering Turkey. Together, we're pursuing a comprehensive strategy that is informed by our success over many years in crippling the al-Qaeda core in the tribal regions of Afghanistan and Pakistan. And we are harnessing all of our tools: military, intelligence, economic, development.
Yeah, really?
And the
okay, they're not doing anything, folks. We know that this has been going on for quite some time. They tried propaganda methods to start a war by saying that there was a sarin gas attack on people by the Syrian government. That was totally debunked. We showed that as a false flag. And the Russians are pointing out that there is no moderate opposition in Syria. This is an article on Infowars.com. They say, I don't think, this is Vladimir Putin's spokesperson. He says, I don't think anyone has yet explained what moderate opposition is. Putin demonstrated quite active interest in the issue and asked in which way the moderate opposition was different from the immoderate opposition. Yeah, remember it was McCain who met with the moderate leaders, and now they've outed themselves as ISIS leaders. Remember that story from about a week and a half ago? And of course, where did these guys come from? A lot of these particular leaders that were that McCain and others met with, they were Chechen jihadis, Islamicists that were being used against Russia. That's why Russia is upset about this. Of course, they're allied with Syria. There's some other geopolitical issues going on. They've been Syria's ally for a very long time, but they also understand that Islamic terrorists have been used as proxies for the U.S. government and the CIA. We are creating this cancer that is building and metastasizing all over the world, and Russia is attacking it. The very fact that the U.S. has been caught repeatedly arming and training and bringing these Chechen rebels in to infiltrate Syria and then not attacking them, that is all very telling that they are our cancer that we're trying to unleash on the world. Why? So that the U.S. can have an excuse to build up the military-industrial complex. They want a new Cold War. They want a new arms race. They want an arms race for terrorism. They want the police surveillance state to ramp up. So they want there to be a permanent war against terrorists. So they have to create a terrorist threat. And now they bring Russia into it because they want to get the big guns out there. Some of the military-industrial complex, I imagine, is upset because you can't really justify strategic fighter bombers. You know, the really big ticket items there. You know, as George C. Scott said in Dr. Strangelove, you know, you see these guys come running in really low. It's amazing to see it. Well, it's also amazing to pay for this. And that's what the military-industrial complex wants. They want an excuse to have a new Cold War, and they're starting a new Cold War. But let's look at what's happening in Syria when ISIS are surrogates come in. They have 11 rules for Christians, and these rules sound very much like our ally, Saudi Arabia. ISIS jihadists have issued 11 commandments for those who are staying in there. You have to sign a contract, you have to pay a tax that's imposed on non-Muslims, or you can leave, they say. But of course, they have their IDs, so they can't quite leave at the moment. But here's some of these rules. They say the stipulations prohibit the establishment of churches. They expose Muslims to Christian religious symbols. So they don't want the establishment of churches. They don't want any exposure of Muslims to Christian religious symbols. And they want to ban possessions of weapons and trading pork or wine. Now, two of those things sound very much like the Obama administration, don't they? Ban all Christian religious symbols, okay, and ban possession of weapons. The only thing that we're not getting from our people, of course, is Obama and Washington haven't tried to ban trading pork or wine, but it looks very much like the Democrat platform, these 11 rules from ISIS. But we have to understand that Saudi Arabia has beheaded more people than ISIS has, and they have attacked and invaded their neighbor, Yemen. Massive civilian casualties in Yemen. Have you heard the American press complaining about what's going on in Yemen? No. Have you heard very much about the bombing of the hospital in Afghanistan? Not really, but you haven't heard anything about what's going on in Yemen because that's our allies, Saudi Arabia. Syria is not attacking its neighbors. It's Saudi Arabia. Who is the real threat? And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we've got this creepy new Army patch. This is from New American. They show the Muslim Brotherhood patch and the U.S. Army patch, and they both have crossed scimitars on them. They look very much alike. So these rules, as I pointed out from ISIS, they look very much like Democrat Party platform. Now, the Russians say that the U.S. is not bombing ISIS. This is another article from Infowars.com. Kurt Nemo pointed this out. He said, quote, McCain accused us of striking out at U.S.-trained insurgents. However, since they've either run away or joined al-Qaeda, hitting them is mission impossible, wrote one of the Russian officials on his Twitter account. He said the U.S. coalition spent a whole year pretending they were striking ISIS, but where are the results of those strikes? Where indeed? That is the fraud. We know they could have done it. We know they could have done it very early, and they haven't.
Alex Jones here to break down some exciting developments in the area of research concerning supplemental iodine. It's nothing less than phenomenal. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. And I used some of the mainline iodine supplements and they upset my stomach and I had some issues with it. Until I discovered a product being developed by Dr. Group, who I was already interviewing as an expert on my radio show, and I began taking the product before he actually rolled it out. You now know it as Survival Shield, true nascent iodine that your body can really absorb. Then, about a year ago, he said, listen, if you think this is powerful, I'm going to come out with rare earth, deep earth crystals that are incredibly powerful that no one else has as a source for their iodine from between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, literally drilled out of the ground. You put it on a hot plate and it turns into the pure gas. No one else has 99.99% pure iodine. And the results that I personally have had have been life-changing. I was over 270 pounds. And with the iodine, exercise, and better diet, I have lost now more than 50 pounds total, and I'm continuing to lose the weight. I have more energy, my libido, all this crap came out of my skin. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. This is innovating. This is trailblazing. And the best part is it helps fund Infowars.com, the radio show, the TV show, the whole media operation promoting true libertarian ideas. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox Special at InfoWarsLife.com.